My 2025 ins and outs. Hi friends, I saw this trend going around about ins and outs for the new year, and I thought it would be fun and a good way to reflect a little bit. I know we're in February now, but I feel like for me personally, feels like my new year is really just starting. So I made a list of my ins and outs for 2025, essentially some things that I want to keep or implement this year, as well as some things that are better left in 2024. So we can just jump right in. Okay, so my first in for the year is building community. This is a big thing for me in 2025 and one that I want to be way more intentional about. So some of you guys may know that I moved to Texas about 2 years ago, and I just have to say that building community and making new friendships as an adult is honestly not. It's not for the faint of heart. It's really not the easiest thing, at least in my experience with moving into a new city. So yeah, there's definitely been some times that it has been a little bit discouraging. The last 2 years, I really didn't care much about this idea of building community down here because it just wasn't the top of my priority. I had just gotten married, just, settling in. I really just was not pressed about it. I'm just a homebody, and I was just like, listen, I'm content just being at home with my man, with my husband. So now that I am more settled in this new city, I do know that at the core, building community is a good thing, and I did have really good community before I moved to Texas. And my goal is really building local community because I think that long distance friendships are so great, but there's something about proximity that I think is really important too. Getting dressed and meeting a friend out for coffee, doing an in-person Bible study, being able to drop over a friend's house. And I'm grateful, and I do feel encouraged about this category because God has been bringing some people into my life and my husband's life, which has been really cool. So I'm excited to build on that in this new year. And in general, I really just want to be a little bit more social because I think me just being that homebody for the last 2 years, I find myself getting a little bit more like socially anxious again and stuff like that. It's weird sometimes just getting back into meeting people, having to introduce yourself and all those things. But it's something that I have been working on being more social and just being out and about more. So I feel like that's helping. And we'll see. Recently, I've been getting back into reading for fun. I used to love reading so much, but I found that I had fallen off of it. But this year, I want to focus on reading books that I enjoy. Like lately, I've actually gotten into thrillers, and it's just so fun for me reading thrillers because it's just a page turner. There's a couple of thrillers that I've read where I've literally finished it in like 4 or 5 days, and I don't recall ever reading a book that fast. So I feel like I'm just rediscovering what I like. A few years ago, I got really into just reading books by African authors, Black authors, really just reading stories about the Black experience or the African experience or stories told through that lens. And of course, that is amazing, and I still love that. But it's nice being able to read and discover other stories. So I'm looking forward to just reading more freely this year, like whatever piques my interest, because I'm trying to get back into this hobby and I don't want any barriers, specifically any barriers of feeling like I just need to read certain types of books. Because even, for example, I was rereading The Great Gatsby, and honestly, my unpopular opinion is that rereading it at this stage as an adult, like it was very hard for me to get through. So one side of me was like, you gotta finish this is a literary classic. But then my real self was like, girl, you're just not into this. Like, you don't have to force yourself to read this. This year, I want to focus on self-care more, especially things like getting my nails done. I didn't really focus on these things last year, then I realized that I do miss it. So we're gonna re-implement that back this year. Another in for me this year is walking and moving my body. Listen, walking is so underrated. And I feel like walking is not just for fitness, but just overall well-being. Last year, I felt kind of sluggish, and I realized that a big part of that is I wasn't really walking or moving my body consistently. I still did from time to time, but I wouldn't say I did it on a regular basis. My goal for this year is getting 8 to 10K steps every day, so I do want to prioritize that. Praise and gratitude is truly a weapon. It's a weapon against heaviness. It's a weapon against negative thoughts. Lately, anytime that I've been feeling a little bit off, like, those days you just wake up or you just feel off and there's no real reason, it's just kind of an off day. I realize in those moments that praise and having gratitude is truly the cure. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, and it calls for actually putting out praise and gratitude in those moments of heaviness. And honestly, that's something that when I have been intentional to do, it's literally changed the day or lifted off that heaviness. So in this year and, the years henceforth, praising God and having gratitude in every season is in. Another in for me this year is positive self-talk and positive self-image. Okay, so one thing about me is I am an encourager. That is my spiritual gift, and I do feel like my ministry is women and speaking life to women and encouraging women. And I realize that there are some things that I say to myself that I would immediately call someone else out if I was to hear them talk about themselves like that. And I would tell them not to say that, and then I would replace that negative thought with something that's positive or something that's true. So I feel like it's unacceptable for me to speak to myself in a way that, one, is not true, two, is not how God views me, and three, is not something that I would accept a friend or anyone else saying about themselves. So I realized that I can't be a hypocrite in this area, and that the way that I would encourage someone else, that I need to actually bring that inward and do it to myself. So in 2025, I just want to be really intentional and to focus on just being overall kind to myself and really taking thoughts captive and replacing it with literally how the good Lord views me as his daughter. So yeah, that is in for 2025. Okay, so my last in for 2025 is prioritizing quality items as well as vintage, thrifted, or secondhand things as well. If you followed my channel for a while, you'll know that I love thrifting, I love vintage, and I just love finding special pieces. And a quick little plug here is if you are someone that loves vintage clothing, I do have an online shop where I curate different items, including clothing and home decor items. So I would love for you to check that out. So in any case, I've been so used to scouring, curating, and collecting vintage pieces for others. I also want to find some things for myself too. My most favorite items that I do have in my closet are things that I've found secondhand, things that are vintage, or things that I've thrifted. So I just want to get a few more of those things for myself this year. Another thing is I just want to make sure that I have quality pieces in general, even for example things like accessories and jewelry. I realize that I do have a nickel allergy, so if I am getting something, I want to take the time, make sure I'm getting something that's like that 14K gold that won't irritate me, and something that's good quality that I can have for years and years and years to come. Okay, so moving on to outs for 2025. I know I kind of talked about this earlier, but on the flip side, 2025 is definitely a year of more positive self-talk. So any negative body image, negative self-talk, or negative thoughts is out for 2025. Another out for this year for me is worrying about things that I cannot control. I realize that there is a special peace that comes with just letting things go and trusting God with the outcome. I think in 2024, there was some moments for me of just unnecessary worry that was just not productive or helpful in any way, shape, or form. So if I say that I trust that God is in control, I want my thoughts and my actions to reflect that, which is definitely easier said than done. But in 2025, I just want to be way, way, way better in this area. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this next one, I'm even cringing to say it out loud, but an out for me this year is responding to text messages late. Lord help me. This is a big one for me. And this is something that I don't love that I do, but I realize that texting is something that I really just do not like. As much as texting stresses me out, what stresses me out more is realizing that I haven't responded to a text in days. There's been some times that I realize that I haven't responded back to a message, and I'll go back and I'll look at that message and it's been a week, it's been 2 weeks, and sometimes it's even been like a month or more. Even when I realize that I haven't responded back to something in a week, I feel so horrible. I feel like I've just had a habit sometimes of getting a text message, opening it, reading it, responding to it internally, mentally, even laughing to the text message, but then not actually physically doing the action of responding back. If someone was to call me, that's easy for me. I'll pick up and talk, and that is just so much better for me. I need to figure out solutions on how to be better with this, but maybe I just need to not open a message until I'm ready in that moment to respond to it. Yeah, but overall, taking forever to respond back to a text message for me is out this year. Another out for me this year is being late. Okay, so I have to admit that I really have been the queen of African time, but honestly lately that has started to affect me, and I've really come to despise being late. It's just not something that I want to be attached to anymore. I don't want it to be just a thing that, oh, you know, I'm doing African time every time I'm doing African time. And as an African woman, this is normal. You know, we say an event starts at 4 o'clock and people get there at 7 o'clock. So I'm officially removing the cloak of lateness off of my body because I don't want it anymore. If I'm meeting someone for coffee, if we say we're meeting at 11 o'clock, I want to be there at 11 o'clock. I don't always want to say, hey girl, I'm running 10 minutes late. Hey girl, I'm running 15 minutes late. And I know that's okay and that's, you know, normal and it happens, but I feel like for me, that's always just been a thing where I'm consistently not on time. I want to be a more punctual person overall, and I want to be dependable in that way. So for me personally, being habitually late is out. Sometimes I just want to sleep late. I just want to watch movies until it's really late. But I realize that when I wake up the next morning after sleeping late, I just don't feel good. I don't feel my best. I just feel kind of meh. Lately, I have been going to bed earlier, between 10 to 11, and I really like it. And I've found that since I've been doing that consistently and regularly, now I just start to get tired around 9:30. Definitely by 10, I'm like very tired and ready to go to bed. I will say that personally, procrastination has been one of my bigger hurdles. Even through college and everything, I tended to just do things at the very last minute, and I would still get a good grade on it. So I didn't really have that incentive to kind of plan earlier and prepare and take the time. I've been trying to practice just ripping off the band-aid. I sometimes find that I can get paralyzed with certain tasks, but I've been trying to tell myself like, okay, you can do hard things. This thing that seems overwhelming or daunting, you know, just do it. It's not as big or as daunting as it might seem. I don't think I'm all of a sudden gonna, you know, perfect this year, but I definitely want to work on being intentional to just rip the band-aid off and not stay in a place of being paralyzed, but then actually just going for the task, doing it, crossing it off the list, because I do always feel better when something is checked off that list. Alright guys, so those are my ins and outs. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope and pray that this year will be amazing. I'd love to hear some of the things that you want to leave behind or take into this new year. So feel free to leave a comment down below with some of your ins and outs. And if you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I will see you guys in the next one.